सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ श्री गणेशाय नमः। ॐ श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। ॐ श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं परमानन्दमाधवम्। सर्ववेदान्तसिद्धान्त गोचरं तमगोचरं गोविन्दं परमानन्दं सद्गुरुं प्रणतोऽस्म्यहम्। Right. So we have seen so far the four koshas: Annamaya, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, and how I am different from them. Why am I different from them? So after explaining each kosha, Bhagavan Shankaracharya also took us to the reasons why we are not individual koshas. Right? So that was the last topic that we concluded, Vijnanamaya kosha. What is Vijnanamaya kosha? Basically, so buddhi along with jnanendriyas, and because buddhi is there, ahankara, together it's called as Vijnanamaya kosha. Right? And this Vijnanamaya kosha, because the ahankara was included, a question was raised by the student that if this ahankara, which we are calling as jiva also, is anadi, then Vijnanamaya kosha is also anadi. Then that will mean that this will never end. Why? Because it is anadi. And if it is anadi and therefore it cannot end, then how samsara will end? Because without jivatva, the samsara will not end, isn't it? So therefore, what? There is no point in putting any efforts. Why? Moksha is not possible. So please explain, O Guru, how this will work. And Guru explained also what? You see, whatever is imagined is beginningless but has an end. Whatever is imagined, parikalpitam, is beginningless. See, you are seeing snake where there is rope. So snake is imagined. Now, that ignorance of rope is beginningless. And therefore, concept of it being snake is also beginningless. But it has an end when you see the rope. So then he explained to us how this jivatva, this ahankara, how samsara, how ajnana, all of them are imagined on the self. And therefore, though they are beginningless, they will have an end. Then automatically a question comes, how will they end? That was the topic that we saw in the last session. Vinivrittir bhavet tasya samyak jnanena na anyatha, verse number 202. How they will end? They will end by samyak jnana. Samyak, perfect, well. Jnana, knowledge. By good knowledge. Good knowledge? Which is there something called as bad knowledge? No. Brahma Atma Ekatva Vijnanam Samyak Jnanam Shruter Matam. What do you mean by Samyak Jnana? Samyak Jnana means Brahma Atma Ekatva Vijnana. The knowledge of oneness of Supreme Brahman and the individual self and the self. This is called as Samyak Jnana. By knowing that I am that Brahman, Jivatva, individuality, considering oneself to be a Jiva, will end. With Jivatva, samsara will end. With that, ajnana will end. And we will reach moksha. Right? Tad atma anatmanoho samyak vivekena eva siddhyati. Now, how will I go to that samyak jnana? How will I get that brahmatma ekatva vijnana? Through viveka, by differentiating atma from anatma. That is the topic which is going on. Tayor vivekah katham. Right? So, anatma is explained. Annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha. This is anatma, not self. Is explained for us to understand that I am something distinct from this. By this kind of viveka, there will arise a firm knowledge that I am not this, but I am that Supreme Brahman, which will end ajnana and jivatva. And of course, samsara. Right? So therefore, tataha vivekah kartavyah. Pratyagatma sadatmano. Therefore, one should discriminate. See, nowadays, the word discrimination has got a negative connotation. Isn't it? In the world, we say we should not discriminate. Of course, between two people, we should not discriminate. Based on their race, based on their color, based on their caste, creed, religion, we should not discriminate. Nationality, etc. Gender, agreed. Here, that kind of discrimination is not spoken of, okay? So, please don't hold my neck and say, what is this Veg is saying? Tato vivekah kartavya. There also do viveka and understand what kind of discrimination I am talking about and what kind of discrimination has a negative connotation. What should be differentiated? The self should be differentiated from not self. Should be understood that I am that Brahman and not the set of upadhis that I think I am. Right? Then what? Then you don't have to do anything else. Jalam pankavat atyantam pankāpāye jalam sputam. See, water is muddy is because of mud. You remove the mud, water is pure. Yatha bhāti tatha atma api dosha bhāve sputa prabha. So to the self, these negativities have joined, have been mixed with. And therefore, what are these negativities? These negativities are identifications with the not self. That I think I am the body, I think I am the pranas, I think I am the mind, I think I am the intellect. These are the panka. Panka means mud that has come into the water of self. Now you remove the mud, water is pure. Therefore, asat nivrittau tu sadatmana sputam pratitiretasya bhavet pratichaha tato nirasak karaniya eva sadatmana sādhu aham adi vastuna. And therefore, you start removing these impurities from this self. It is like self is pure I, my real nature. To that, different things have joined. So, what we consider as I today is pure I plus BMI. See? When I say, do you know who I am? Now, question should be, do you know who you are? You can say to other people, do you know who I am? But you should know who you are. What do you think you are? Who do you think you are? All of us, we think that what are we? There is something. I can't explain what it is, but along with body, mind, intellect. Therefore, when it is asked, give introduction. How do we give introduction? My name is so and so, Brahmachari with Chaitanya. I am from Chinmay International Foundation, Kerala. If we Indians, we have one more thing. I am originally from Maharashtra. Originally. So, what is this originally? I don't know. But we have this habit that I am basically from that place. Again, you are telling about the place where the body is born. You are telling the name that the body is being given. Then you will tell, I have studied so and so. Intellects, degrees, you are telling. And then you will tell age also. Body's age. So somehow these impurities have come and joined to this real I. Now what is our job? Remove these impurities. That is it. We don't have to create I. We don't have to gain I. The self is not to be gained. It is already there, but it is mixed with impurities. You remove the impurities, it will be pure. Why? Because it is anyways pure. Water appears impure. Why? Because there is something in water other than water. You remove that, water will be pure. It was always pure. Right? So that is what we have to do. And in that, the last verse that we saw explained how I am not this Vijnānamāyākośasya. So the topic of Vijnānamāyākośasya is getting over. If you see, Vijnānamāyākośasya topic started 184. So 184 to 191, he explained, Guru is explaining what is Vijnānamāyākośasya, right? Then 190 to 193 was students' questions. And then answer was given from 194 to 205. And now in 206, the topic is concluded by giving reasons why I cannot be the Vijnānamāyākośasya. Ato nāyam parātmā syād vijnānamaya shabdabhāk vikāritvāt, because it modifies. Jadattvāt, because it is inert. Parichhinnatvahetutah, because it is limited. Actually, it is this Vijnānamāyākośasya which creates limitation for us. Intellect, that is where that ahankara also is. That only says that I am this limited individual being, right? But the self is unlimited, infinite. Drishyatvat, it is seen. Something that is seen is not real. We have seen that. Vyabhicharitvat, it changes in its nature. Na anityah nityah ishyate. And therefore, finally, it amounts to anitya. And this anitya, which is unreal, anitya, impermanent, cannot be permanent self. Therefore, I am not Vijnānamāyākośasya also. Then what? Vedji, maybe I am ānandaMāyākośasya. All right, let us see. Verse number 207. Please repeat. ānandaMāyākośasya concept starts 207 to 211. Let us see. Sandhyama, unmute. ānanda-pratibimba-chumbita-tanuhu vrittis-tamo-jೃംಭಿತಾ syādānandaMāyāḥ priyādiguṇakaḥ sveṣṭārthalābhodayaḥ puṇyasyānubhave vibhāti kṛtināmānandarūpaḥ svayaṃ. sarvo nandati yatra sādhu tanubhṛt mātraḥ prayatnaṃ vinā mātraḥ prayatnaṃ vinā ānanda pratibimbachumbitatanurvrittistamojrambhita syādānandaMāyāḥ priyādiguṇakaḥ sveṣṭārthalābhodayaḥ puṇyasyānubhave vibhāti kṛtināmānandarūpaḥ svayaṃ sarvo nandati yatra sādhu tanubhṛnmātraḥ prayatnaṃ vinā. In one verse, he is explaining what is ānandaMāyākośasya. Now, what is this? Okay, let us first analyze. Annamaya kosha, food sheath, means what? Modification of food. Annamaya. Pranamaya kosha, the vital air sheath, was the modification of vayu vikara, right? So, the physiological functions. Manomaya kosha, the mental sheath, is basically modification of antakarana vrittis, the thoughts, which are coming under the indecisive mode, mind. Vijnanamaya kosha, Vijnanamaya, the intellect, or the what we call the intellectual sheath, right? Vijnanamaya, why Vijnana? Because that is the place where the intellect is the place where the knowledge takes place, and it is along with ahankara also. So, the intellectual sheath, right? Now, what? ānandaMaya kosha. Carefully note. ānandaMaya. ānandaMaya means modification of bliss. The self is of the nature of Ananda, but this is ānandaMaya, and therefore it is still sheath. Sheath means covering. Covering means something which is covering the self, not the self. Many people, they study Vedanta, but they think that this ānandaMaya kosha is the self. Please note, ānandaMaya kosha is not the self. It is still a sheath. Why? Because it is modification of bliss. The real pure bliss is the self. This is the modification of bliss. How is it modification? Explained in the first phrase itself. You see, ānanda pratibimba chumbita tanuhu vrittihi. It is basically a vritti. I am not going to translate vritti as thought just now. I will come to what do you mean by vritti. And what is this vritti? Vritti basically means modification. Vritti, that which changes. Okay. Tanuhu, the modification whose nature is what? Ānanda pratibimba chumbita. Ānanda, bliss. Ānanda pratibimba, reflection of bliss. Chumbita, kissed. Kissed means along with. So that thought which is having reflection of bliss, careful, that thought which is having reflection of bliss along with it, that is called as ānandaMaya kosha. Thought, did I say thought? Okay. Vritti, that vritti modification which has reflection of bliss along with it. Now, let us solve this issue of vritti and thought. Okay. Now, you see, vritti means modification. Okay. It is loosely translated as thought. It is not actually thought. Why? Because, why I am saying this? Because the moment we say thought, we understand thought of the mind, thought of the intellect, isn't it? We immediately connect it to antakarana and therefore sukshma sharira. Am I right? The moment we say thought, that is what we understand. But vritti is of two types. One is called as antahkarana vritti, antahkarana parinamo vritti, and second is called as avidya vritti. One is called as antahkarana vritti, the modifications that happen in the antahkarana, which are generally called as thoughts. That is right, antahkarana vritti. Second type of vritti is avidya or ajnana vritti. What is this avidya vritti or ajnana vritti? This is the thought which is present in our deep sleep. In the waking, we have the world, we have our body, mind perceiving the world. In the dream, mind creates, antahkarana creates the world and we are experiencing that world. In the deep sleep, waking world, dream world is not there. Mind, intellect is not there. There is only one thought, I know nothing. Correct? That thought, that vritti, I know nothing, is called as avidya vritti or ajnana vritti. It is not thought of the mind. It is the vritti of karana sharira. Are you getting? So vritti basically has two types, antahkarana vritti and avidya vritti. In antahkarana vritti, what is happening? These are the thoughts of mind and intellect, which are there in the waking and dream. Avidya vritti is the thought which is there in deep sleep. I know nothing. And that is why we say that in deep sleep, mind is not there. Now, some people argue by saying that no, but there is a thought. But that thought is not actually a thought of intellect or mind. It is the ajnana vritti, avidya vritti. It is the vritti of karana sharira. It's a modification of karana sharira. Are you getting? Now, see, the moment there is a vritti, it has to reflect the self because it is the nature of the subtle vritti to reflect. And we saw that that is why jiva also, ahankara also is there. Reflection of consciousness along with that. Now, in this avidya vritti also what happens? There is reflection of self. But you see, self is of the nature of Satchidananda, isn't it? And most of the times when we are using the word Chidabhasa, reflection, we say reflection of consciousness. Have you noticed? Reflection of consciousness. Now here you see what Shankaracharya says. He says reflection of bliss. It is one and the same actually. Reflection of consciousness, reflection of bliss is one and the same. Why? Because Chit and Ananda are not different. Sat, Chit, Ananda, when we say that Sat itself is Chit, that Chit itself is Ananda. But why is he saying like this? Because avidya vritti makes sure that there is no other thought of antahkarana, because of which there is no disturbance. And therefore, the only experience we have with this avidya vritti is that of bliss. But because it is reflection of bliss, reflection of self, it is not the self, it is a kosha. Are you understanding? Difference between ānandaMāyākośasya and ānanda atma. Ananda Atma, that Ananda is the nature of Atma, is not reflected in some vritti. Whereas in ānandaMāyākosha, that Ananda of the Atma is reflected. In other words, in the deep sleep, the joy that I experience actually belongs to the self, but it is reflected into ignorance, ajnana, avidya, and therefore the deep sleep experience is not called as realization. Actually, I am experiencing the bliss of the self only. That is actually our goal, isn't it? To go back to the source. Here I am going back to the source, but I am not understanding it is the source. Why? Because ajnana vritti. The thought which is overpowering in deep sleep is, I know nothing. Ajnana, avidya. And the bliss that is reflected into this ajnana vritti, that is called as, so basically the karana sharira into which this bliss is getting reflected, that karana sharira is called as ānandaMāyākosha. So annamaya kosha is sthula sharira. Pranamaya kosha, manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha together is sukshma sharira. And now we come to the fifth kosha, ānandamaya kosha. What is it? It is the karana sharira. Why is it called as ānandamaya kosha? That is the question. That's why this kind of explanation is given. See, karana sharira is called karana sharira. Why? Because it causes the other two shariras. It is the cause for sthula and sukshma sharira. Karana sharira has got ajnana, karana sharira has got vasanas, karana sharira has got punya and papa, and therefore it is the cause for the other two bodies, and therefore it is called as karana sharira. Fine. Why is now karana sharira called ānandamaya kosha? Because in this karana sharira vritti, which is called as ajnana vritti or avidya vritti, the bliss of the self is getting reflected. And because of that reflection of bliss, modification of bliss, it is called as bliss sheath, ānandamaya kosha. Is it clear? Ananda pratibimba chumbita tanuhu vrittihi. And how is it? Tamojrumbita. It has arisen from tamas, from ignorance. Why? Because it is ignorance, nothing else. Ajnana vritti, avidya vritti will be born from what? From ajnana only. Tamojrumbita. SyādānandaMāyāḥ. That is what is called as ānandamaya, modification of bliss, bliss sheath. Priyādiguṇakaḥ. Carefully note. Priyādiguṇakaḥ, which has got attributes, gunas. Like what? Priya adi. Now comes another interesting concept. What is that? See, any time we experience joy, it is ānandamaya kosha. What? Any time we experience joy, happiness is ānandamaya kosha. Even in the waking and dream. In deep sleep, ānandamaya kosha alone is there. No doubt about that. Even in the waking and dream, when we enjoy, when we experience joy, that is also ānandamaya kosha. This is additional point. In karana sharira, this concept was not there. So ānandamaya kosha is karana sharira plus priya, moda, pramoda. Priyādiguṇakaḥ is said. You see, priya adi, priya etc. What is this etc.? That I am telling you. Priya, moda and pramoda. What are these? These are the three kinds of joys that we experience in the waking and in the dream. In the deep sleep, of course, ānanda vritti, avidya vritti is there, ajnana vritti is there of karana sharira, and that is called as ānandamaya kosha. In the waking and dream also, we have this priya, moda, pramoda. What are they, priya, moda, pramoda? Understand. Let us see. Priya, These are three levels of joy. Three levels. First level is priya. Priya means ishtavastu darshana janya sukham. Ishtavastu darshana janya sukham. The joy, the thought of joy, now this will be priya, moda, pramoda will be antakarana vrittis, okay? Only in the deep sleep it is ajnana vritti. Now this priyadi vritti saitam is what? Now what is this priya? Ishtavastu darshana janya sukham. The thought of joy arising from perception of the desired object. Priya. Moda. Moda means what? Ishtavastu praptijanya sukham. Ishtavastu praptijanya sukham. The thought of joy arising on attainment of the desired object. Priya was perception of desired object. Now moda is attainment of that object. And pramoda, prakarshayena moda, extreme ecstasy. What is that? Ishtavastu anubhuti janya sukham. The thought of joy arising on experiencing the desired object. Desired object, the object that we like, ishtavastu. Now, what is this? See, I like ice cream. Suppose, okay. To tell you the fact, why I always give this example of ice cream is because I don't like ice cream. That is the reason. So there is no problem. Even if I say 100 times, I am not going to like it anyways. So best. See, if I give some other example which I already like, then I will be strengthening that vasana, you see. So I don't want to get caught there. But you see, and ice cream is fair enough. Many people like it. So the example works also. Now suppose I like ice cream. I see the ice cream, I am already happy. Ice cream. Now when I get that ice cream in my hand, I am more happy. And when I actually taste it and experience it, I am even more happy. Now this is what is called as priya, moda, pramoda. On perceiving, on attaining, and on experiencing the object that we like. All our joys in waking and dream come in one of the three categories, priya, moda or pramoda. Darshana, prapti, anubhuti. Now what is said here? This priya, moda, pramoda also comes under ānandaMāyākośasya. Now what is this? See, what happens actually is, earlier we had seen this concept. Every single joy that we experience is coming from the self alone. Why? Because there is no other source of joy. See, if I say that every single light is coming from the sun alone, I won't be wrong. Why? Because even if you are saying electric light, it has somehow come from the sun only. Through different convergence maybe, but coming from there. The sun gets light from the self. Let us not go into that part. But for example's sake, I can say that all the light is coming from sun alone. In the same way, every single joy that we experience is coming from the self alone. The joy of the deep sleep, the joy of perceiving, attaining, experiencing the objects that we like in the waking and dream, all kinds of joy coming from the self alone. What happens? The bliss of the self in the waking and dream is covered with so many desires. So the moment some desire is fulfilled, I experience joy. We are not calling it as bliss. We are calling it as joy. Why? Because it is short-lived. It gets over. Joy, sorrow. Joy has another counterpart called sorrow. Bliss has no counterpart. There is no concept of unbliss. No, there is nothing like that. So this joy is experienced. It is the bliss of the self only. Why am I experiencing? Because some desire is fulfilled. Imagine something like this, that there is a strong light. And in front of that strong light, there is a thick cardboard sheet. Now, because of this thick cardboard sheet, I am not able to see the light. Now, suppose I create one hole in that cardboard sheet, one ray of light will come out. Correct? Suppose I create few more holes, few more rays will come out. Now, these rays are coming from where? From the same source light, which is covered with this thick cardboard sheet. Now, that light of the lamp is the bliss of the self. It is covered with this thick cardboard of desires. And every time we fulfill a desire, means what? My desired object is seen, priya, or attained, moda, or experienced, pramoda, I am creating a hole. Hole of different size. So, priya hole will be small, moda hole will be little bigger, pramoda will be little more bigger, but it will be a hole. A small hole in the cardboard sheet, and from that hole, the light of the self, the bliss of the self will come out and we will experience. But what happens? By the time we are experiencing that bliss, we have created few more desires. Why? Because the moment I put this ice cream in my mouth, I say, "Arey, I should have got my friend with me." Gone. The joy is gone. Why? Because we have created another desire. Actually, by the time we catch hold of this ice cream, our eyes have seen something else which we want now. So what happens? More desires means again the bliss is covered. So every single joy that we experience, we are actually experiencing the bliss of the self, but it is adulterated. It is impure. Why? Because it is in the thought. Either in the thought of the mind intellect or in ajnana vritti. And every single thought of bliss, ānanda vritti, careful, is ānandaMāyākośasya. Every single ānanda vritti modification is ānandaMāyākośasya. May it be the bliss that I experience in the deep sleep when I know nothing, and therefore I sleep happily, and it is an experience which is surely of happiness, and I want to go back again and again to that state. Or may it be in the waking and dream when I am experiencing priya, moda, pramoda. They are also called as ānanda vrittis. Of course, they are thought of the mind, and in the deep sleep it is the avidya vritti, agreed. But all of them are called as ānanda vritti. Why? Because it is the modification of bliss. Okay. So every single time we experience joy, it is ānandaMāyākośasya. Of course, that joy is coming from the self alone, but it is getting reflected in some vritti. So, ānanda pratibimba chumbita tanuhu vrittis tamojrimbita syādānandaMāyāḥ priyādiguṇakaḥ sveṣṭārthalābhodayaḥ. That is the explanation of priyādiguṇakaḥ. sveṣṭārthalābhodayaḥ. It is born from udayaḥ, labha, gaining, artha, object, ishta, that we like, swa, one's own. So that priya, moda, pramoda we are talking about, which is born from gaining the objects that we like. We saw perceiving, attaining and experiencing. Right? That is ānandaMāyākośasya. Now very interesting. What? puṇyasyānubhave vibhāti. puṇyasyānubhave vibhāti means what? It appears in the experience of past merit. kṛtināmān. kṛtināmān means for those people who have performed action. Means what? Let us understand. Every single experience of joy is result of punya. Many times we forget this. Earlier we had done this whole analysis, if you remember. Every single action that I perform either creates punya or papa. Exception is karma yoga, which creates chitta shuddhi. We are not going to talk about that right now. Every single action that I perform creates punya or papa. This punya comes in our life as sukha, joy, and papa comes in our life as dukkha, sorrow. So every single joy is result of punya, which is result of some past good action. Which means what? If you eat ice cream and if you became happy, it is not because of eating ice cream. That happiness is result of some past punya. If that punya is not there, you will eat ice cream but you will not be happy. Why? Because you don't deserve happiness. Please, please, please note this. Every single joy that we get is result of punya. So that joy which can come and give a concrete experience, careful, that punya which can have a strong joy as its result comes in our waking. That punya which doesn't have that much strong joy to give, but still it should give joy, comes in our dream. Means what? Suppose your punya is not that strong enough, you will not eat ice cream in the waking, you will eat ice cream in the dream, and from that you will get small amount of joy in the dream. Why? Because that punya which is resulting in the joy of the dream doesn't deserve joy of the waking. Every single joy is born from punya. It is not because of the object that we are experiencing. It is not because of any single person around us. It is the result of our own past action. Viji, I get very terrible dreams. Yes. Why? Because you have done papa. Why? Because just as punya results in joy, papa results in sorrow. So if I am experiencing sorrow in the waking or in the dream, it is the result of papa. Nobody else is causing me sorrow. No object by being with me or not being with me is creating any sorrow. Joy and sorrow is created by my own punya and papa. Okay? Now you see, in the deep sleep, it is only joy that we experience. Yes or no? There is no sorrow in deep sleep. Correct? Which means what? Every single second of deep sleep that you get is because of punya. Every single moment of deep sleep is the result of punya. Why? Because if that punya is not there, you will not be able to sleep. So when we complain saying that I don't get sleep, what is causing it? My own papa. See how the nature works. And that is why those who have not done good actions will not get sleep. We say no, तेरी नींद उड़ जाएगी. नींद उड़ गई. कहाँ उड़ गई? वो पाप में उड़ गई. Where the sleep has gone, it is gone in that papa. Every single joy in waking, in dream, and the joy of deep sleep is result of punya. And the person who has performed that past action, himself or herself has to go through that punya. The result of punya is sukha. So the joy that I experience, see, that's why it was said, priya moda pramoda is what? The thought of joy arising on perceiving, attaining and experiencing the object. It was not arising from the object. When I perceive an object, priya is born. What is this priya? This priya is the result of some past punya. Are you getting? So now you see your outlook towards life will change, should change. Why? Because if we do something and we don't get satisfaction, don't blame the situation, don't blame the people, don't blame any object around you. It is the result of your own past actions. So too every single joy that we experience is the result of our own past actions. Please remember that also. Okay. puṇyasyānubhave vibhāti kṛtināmānandarūpaḥ svayaṃ. It itself is of the nature of joy. Yatra, where sarvo tanubhṛt, all tanubhṛt, tanu means body, bhṛt means that which holds body, embodied beings. Tanubhṛt sādhu nandati, they rejoice well. Matra, just by this. Prayatnaṃ vinā, without any effort. What do you mean without any effort? It looks like it is without any effort. Why? Because that sukha is result of past punya. Otherwise, just think, in the waking and dream, okay, let us just put our mind into this. How many hours are we awake? Let us say 16-17 hours. In that 16-17 hours, how much effort we have to put to remain happy? Lot of effort. All the time we are putting efforts only to be happy. All the things that we are doing is for what? For maintaining this state of happiness. Now what happens? We put so much of effort, still we may not get happiness, but just we relax and we fall into sleep and we are happy. It looks like it is without any effort that we are experiencing that happiness. Looks like that. But actually what it is the result of past punya. Even in the waking and dream, how much happiness, how much joy we will get is the result of punya. Okay. So satkarma, good action that I have performed, results in punya, results in sukha. Vidji, I have one doubt. Okay, what is the doubt? Is happiness in our hand or not? Is happiness in our hand or not? Why? Because we keep telling everyone, especially all the Vedantis, that you should remain happy in any situation. Correct or no? Okay. Now let me explain. Karma creates punya papa. Punya papa comes as joy and sorrow. But we can remain happy in joy as well as sorrow. Happiness is our response to joy and sorrow. Carefully note. Happiness is our response to joy and sorrow. Example. The situation that I am in is because of prarabdha. We know that is a result of all the past actions till the very last moment. But in that given situation and the experience that the situation is providing me, whether joyful experience or sorrowful experience, whether I should remain in that happiness or not, is my response to that situation, which is the next action which will create further punya papa and which will result in further sukha dukkha. I saw ice cream parlor, Priya. Now, do I want to be excited about it is up to me. Ice cream parlor! Wait. Go inside. Get the ice cream first. Don't become too happy. Now, this is in my hand or not? I saw an ice cream parlor is the situation. Priya should come, correct. But what is my response to it is in my hand. Okay. Now, as that ice cream is coming, the waiter is bringing that ice cream, bringing. My joy is going up. That is also in my hand. Or whether to be cool about it. Fine, let him bring. And by the time I am raising my hand and the waiter's hand and both hands meet and the ice cream falls. Now what happened? Veji, Priya happened, but Moda did not happen. Why? Because I could not attain it. My dear, but that is also a situation. Your response to it may be different. I can shout at the waiter, how dare you, you don't understand, and what is this? Now please understand, even if I shout at the waiter, and therefore by the hotel's policy, they take out this trash and they give you new ice cream without any charge. You are not that much happy. Why? Because you are just now fought. You have created sorrow for yourself. Or I just say it's okay. It happens. I also so many times, so many things fall from my hand. It's okay. That's fine. Then the waiter says, sorry, I will bring new one. No problem. Relax. See, the response is what is going to determine my happiness. Joy and sorrow, fixed. Punya papa will give. But what is my response to that situation? I can still remain to be happy irrespective of attaining the object, perceiving the object or experiencing the object. That is Purushartha. And therefore it is said that your happiness is in your hands. Two ways. In the past it was in your hand. You only did action which is resulting in punya and therefore you are getting happiness. So whatever joy and sorrow you are getting is because of you alone. Don't forget, even at this moment it is in my hand. Why? Because happiness is my response to the joyful or sorrowful situation. Are you getting? All these topics came by the by. Topic here is what? Every single experience of joy is ānandamaya kosha. In the deep sleep, it is because of ajnana vritti and the reflected bliss in that which is becoming ananda vritti, I experience joy. In the dream and waking, it is the joy of priyamoda pramoda. All of that is called as ānandamaya kosha. It is the modification of bliss and therefore it is kosha. It is a sheath. It is not me. Right? This ānandamaya kosha, this bliss or this happiness or joy that we experience is a result of punya, and therefore it appears like we got it prayatnaṃ vinā, without any effort we have got the joy, but it is the efforts in the past that is creating this joy. Right? Now, what is the point? Let us see the next verse. Verse number 208. ānandaMāyākośasya suṣuptau sphūrtirutkaṭā svapnajāgarayorīṣadiṣṭasaṃdarśanāvinā ānandaMāyākośasya suṣuptau sphūrtirutkaṭā svapnajāgarayorīṣadiṣṭasaṃdarśanāvinā. Very simple. Just now we have seen ānandaMāyākośasya sphūrtihi, the manifestation of this bliss sheath, suṣuptau utkaṭā, is strong, utkaṭā is full, suṣuptau in the deep sleep. In the deep sleep, this ānandamaya kosha is fully manifested. Why? Because it alone is there. There is no sthula and sukshma sharira, there is no other koshas, and therefore in the deep sleep, ānandamaya kosha is in full manifestation. Svapnajāgarayoḥ, in the waking and dream, ishat, it is partial. The manifestation of bliss sheath is partial. Partial means what? Is less amount. It's not full. Some amount of it is manifesting in the waking and dream when ishta sandarshana adina, by the sight. Ishta means desired object. Sandarshana means seeing. Adina, etc. Means in priyamoda and pramoda, whenever priyamoda, pramoda come, in the swapna and jagara, in the dream and waking, that is the time that the bliss sheath is manifesting. In the deep sleep, it is fully manifesting because it alone is there. In the waking and dream, it is partially manifesting only when priyamoda, pramoda comes. Other times, ānandamaya kosha is not there. So when we are going through other emotions, ānandamaya kosha is not manifesting. Right? Manomaya kosha will be manifesting, vijnānamaya kosha will be manifesting, pranamaya kosha will be manifesting, annamaya will be manifesting in the waking. But ānandamaya will manifest only when there is priyamoda, pramoda in waking and dream. But in the deep sleep, its manifestation is full. Clear? This point is also clear. Right. Now, what? I am not this ānandamaya kosha. That is what he explains in the next verse. naivāyamānandaMāyāḥ parātmā sopādhikatvātprakṛtervikārāt kāryatvahetoḥ sukṛtakriyāyā vikārasaṅghātasamāhitatvāt. naivāyamānandaMāyāḥ parātmā sopādhikatvātprakṛtervikārāt kāryatvahetoḥ sukṛtakriyāyā vikārasaṅghātasamāhitatvāt. Ayam ānandaMāyāḥ parātmā na eva. Even this ānandamaya, this bliss sheath, is not the Supreme Self. Why? Because it is the modification of bliss, whereas Self is the pure bliss. And why? All the reasons are given. Sopādhikatvāt, sahita upadhi, sopādhi. Sopādhika upadhi sahita. Sopādhikatvāt, because of it being always endowed with conditioning. What is the conditioning here? Karana Sharira is the upadhi here. In that Karana Sharira, the bliss of the self is getting reflected. So this ānandaMaya kosha is associated with Karana Sharira, and therefore it cannot be the self. Sopādhikatvāt. It is associated with upadhi of Karana Sharira in this case. Prakritehe vikārāt. It is the modification of Prakriti. It is the result. It is an effect. Isn't it? It is not the self. Why? Because self doesn't have any vikara, any modification. This is vritti. Vritti is modification. And modification of what? Modification of that maya. Avidya vritti, ajnana vritti, maya vritti, whatever you want to call. But it is a modification. But the self is not modifying, and therefore that which is modifying is not the self. Prakritehe vikārāt, because of it being modification of Prakriti. Sukṛtakriyāyā kāryatvahetoḥ, because of it being the karya, effect of sukṛtakriya. Sukrita means good action, kriya action. It is the result of good action that has become punya. Now that punya is becoming this. It is an effect, and therefore it is not me. Why? Because the effect is not real. Why? Because the effect is born at a particular time, it will end at a particular time, and therefore it cannot be real. It cannot be eternal. Whereas the self is not born at any particular time, will not end in time. Sukṛtakriyāyā kāryatvahetoḥ, because of it being the effect of good actions. Vikārasaṅghātasamāhitatvāt, because of it being always associated with sanghāta, with the assemblage. What is sanghāta? Sanghāta is body, mind, intellect, senses, pranas and all this. This is called as assemblage. This assemblage. Vikara, which is continuously modifying. Body is going through modifications continuously. Pranas, senses, mind, intellect, all of them are modifying, all of them put together. It's called as assemblage, and this ānandaMaya kosha is associated with this assemblage. Anything which is part of the assemblage is not the self. Why? Because the assemblage is meant for something else, distinct from the assemblage. In Upanishads, etc., those who have studied, this point comes again and again. Kena Upanishad, Kathopanishad. In Kathopanishad, one valli, one entire section was dedicated to this, to explain how the self is different from the assemblage and the entire assemblage is meant for the self. In Kena Upanishad also. Right? Shrotrasya shrotram, manaso manoyat, vachoha vacham. This is the same concept here. What? Assemblage is meant for something. We have seen in this class also that if I have house, the house is an assemblage of cement and bricks and all the things in the house, what we call as home. And this entire assemblage is meant for me, somebody other than the house. In the same way, this body, mind, intellect, senses, pranas, etc., this assemblage and this ānandaMaya kosha which is associated with this assemblage is different from me, is not me. Okay. Therefore, ayam ānandaMāyāḥ parātmā na eva. Even this ānandaMaya kosha is not me. Now, so ānandaMāyākośasya topic is over. 207, 208, 209. In 3 verses, ānandaMāyākośasya topic is over. What is ānandaMāyākośasya? Explained in 207. Where is its manifestation? Fully in the deep sleep, partial in the waking and dream. Explained in 208. And 209 explained how I am not the ānandaMāyākośasya. Now next two verses, the Guru explains how this self is distinct from all the 5 koshas. So what is individually explained now? ānandaMāyākośasya explained, I am not ānandaMāyākośasya. Prāṇamāyākośasya explained, I am not Prāṇamāyākośasya. Manomāyākośasya explained, I am not Manomāyākośasya. Vijñānamāyākośasya explained, I am not Vijñānamāyākośasya. ānandaMāyākośasya explained, I am not ānandaMāyākośasya. Now these 5 koshas together also, I am not that. So next 2 verses, the Guru explains this. Let us see, very simple verses we can complete. Verse number 210. pañcānāmapi kośānāṃ niṣedhe yuktitah krite tanniṣedhavadhi sakshi bodharūpo'vaśiṣyate. Next verse also together. Please repeat. Yoyamatma svayaṃ jyotihi pañcakosha vilakṣanaḥ avasthatraya sakshi san nirvikaro niranjanah sadānandassa vidneyah swātmatvena vipaśṭhita. Both verses together. pañcānāmapi kośānāṃ niṣedhe yuktitah krite tanniṣedhavadhi sakshi bodharūpo'vaśiṣyate. yoyamatma svayaṃ jyotihi pañcakosha vilakṣanaḥ avasthatraya sakshi san nirvikaro niranjanah sadānandassa vidneyah swātmatvena vipaśṭhita. What is said now? pañcānāmapi kośānāṃ, of all the 5 sheets, even of all the 5 sheets, niṣedhe, when they are negated. Negated means when they are explained as not me. That's called as negation. I am not this, I am not this, I am not this. Now in some pathas in your book also, yuktita shrutehe might be there. Yuktita shrutehe or yuktita krite. Both pathas are fine. What is the meaning? I will explain. pañcānāmapi kośānāṃ niṣedhe krite. When the nisheda, when the negation is done for all the 5 koshas, yuktitah. Yuktitah through logic, through reasoning. Or shrutehe yuktitah means through the reasoning given in the scriptures. Shrutehe, of the scriptures. Both pathas are fine. What is the point? When these 5 koshas are negated, saying that I am not them, tan nishedha avadhihi, that which is the culmination of their negation. Tan nishedha, their negation. Avadhi, culmination. Now here also one Pathabheda is there. Some places that Visarga will be there, some places Visarga will be not there. That's okay. Both are fine. Tan nishedhavadhi, tan nishedhavadhihi. Both are fine. Avadhi means culmination. The culmination of their negation, Sakshi, is the witness. Bodharūpah, which is of the nature of consciousness, that sakshi avashishyate, remains. When the five sheaths are negated, their witness remains. That witness of the nature of consciousness, I am. Yaha ayam atma, next verse, this self, which is explained like this, svayaṃ jyotihi, which is of the self-luminous nature, pañcakosha vilakshanaha, which is different from, distinct from the five sheaths, avasthatraya sakshi san, which is the witness of the three states, nirvikaraha, which is without any modification, niranjanaha, which is without any taint, sadānandaha, which is ever of the nature of bliss, sahavidneyaha, that self should be realized, vidneyaha, not just should be known intellectually, but it should be experienced as what? Swatmatvena, as one's own self, vipaschita, by the wise. So by the wise person, this self which is distinct from the five koshas, witness of the three sheaths, which is of the nature of self-luminous, which is nirvikara, which is without any modification, niranjana, unsullied, without any taint, sadānanda, which is sat and ananda, one meaning. Sat and ananda means existence and bliss, or sada ananda, or which is always of the nature of bliss. That atma, that self should be realized and as one's own self, swatmatvena. So the five koshas which are explained, when these five koshas are negated, that which remains is the self. That self should be realized. Is it clear? Clear what the shlokas are saying? Now once again, student raises one question. Student says, excuse me, one doubt. What doubt? We'll see in the next session. I will just introduce the doubt. The doubt is what? When the five sheaths are negated, nothing remains. What are you talking? Why? Because there is nothing other than the five sheaths. Explain yourself without using annamaya, pranamaya, manomaya, vijñānamaya, ānandamāya kosha. Try. Explain yourself. We can't explain. Why? Because we don't know anything other than this. Other than the body, pranas, mind, intellect and karana sharira in deep sleep which is there is nothing. So the student says, okay, you are telling me that when the five sheaths are negated, what remains is the self. But I am saying nothing will remain. Then what? So the teacher answers, who sees that there is nothing? That you are. Who knows that nothing remains? Even to say that there is nothing, you have to be there. That you are. As long as we are thinking of realizing the self and understanding it as some object, we will always fail. Why? Because when all objects are negated, no object is there, but the subject remains. Stop looking outside, look at the subject. So when the five koshas are negated, you are right, oh my dear, that nothing of the world will remain. But the one who sees that there is nothing, that you are. That sakshi, that witness, you are. So the question and the answer will follow. We will see in the next session. See how interesting. All right, chalo, let us conclude. So today we learned so many things, okay? So many concepts. ānandaMāyākośasya, I am not sure how many of you had studied ānandaMāyākośasya before, but I am sure there is something new that we have learned. Please reflect on it. It's karana sharira, ananda vritti, ajnana vritti, and also priyamoda pramoda. It is born from the punya. Therefore it looks effortless. So every single joy that we experience in waking, dream and deep sleep, number one, it belongs to the self. Number two, it is the modification. It is the modification in ānandaMāyākośasya. Number three, it is the result of my own punya. Right? In the deep sleep, manifestation of this ānandaMāyākośasya is full. In the waking and dream, it is partial, only when priyamoda pramoda is there. And I am not this ānandaMāyākośasya, nor am I any of the 5 sheets. After negating the 5 sheets, that which remains, that witness I am, which is swayaṃ jyoti, which is nirvikara, which is niranjana, which is sadananda. That I am. Savidneya. That should be experienced. All right. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevāvaśiṣyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Harihi.